I'll call the meeting of the Morrow County Commission to order, and we will start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is public comment period that we have every one of our meetings. And I'll just quickly go over what the rules are. This is a time for the public to make comment on any of the county's business. Each person will get 3 minutes to make their statement. We ask that you not get personal and just keep it civil. And we'll start with those, and if there's anybody in the room and then anybody else in. So is there anybody in the room that would like to comment? Yes. And just, one of the last things, just state your name and if you're affiliated with the group or so forth, or where you're from.
John Doherty, and representing Willow Creek Valley Economic Development Group, and then also the city of Hefner. As far as Willow Creek Economic Development Group, both of my comments will be related to the siting of the Circuit Courthouse building. And the following is a letter from the Willow Creek Valley Economic Development Group. Dear Board of Commissioners, the Willow Creek Valley Economic Development Group is writing this letter in support of retaining the new build Circuit Court building in Hefner, Oregon. WCVED is aware of the challenges that have arisen in a possible siting location on Port of Morrow land located northwest of the city, the former Kinzu Mill location. We are aware that the DOC has decided to look into locations within the city of Portland for a satellite port location. WCVED would like to emphasize their support for retaining the Circuit Court location in Hefner. WCVED realizes the economic boost to local businesses during the construction phase of the Circuit Court. WCVED also is concerned with the loss of jobs, both current and future, with a possible change of venue for siting. The location of a satellite port in Boardman could likely result in the relocation of positions from Hefner to Boardman or elimination of redundant positions. Hefner is the seat of Morrow County, and the retention of offices within the county seat is important to our local autonomy. WCVED realizes the challenges that Hefner faces in attracting development. We ask that the Board of Commissioners do nothing to increase our challenges and move forward with the siting of the building on the new circuit court in Hefner. And from the city of Hefner's side, obviously we submitted a letter before last week's work session. It was included in the agenda. And I just want to point out that, the city, we face more difficulties with economic development than the North End does. The port, WCVED, and the city are working on economic development with both the mill site and looking to attract businesses. We've got housing permits going forward. People want to live in Hefner. We're working on the availability for industrial and economic development land, also working with FEMA and the Corps of Engineers. As far as siting a satellite port in Boardman, we're just worried that there would be an elimination of positions. Also, I don't believe that siting of a satellite port and retaining some port activities here addresses the 2023 study that addresses the deficiencies in the courthouse, inadequate sizes, conflict between Circuit Court and Justice Court. And lastly, I think some of the comments made by Judge Hill last week in the work session in reference to the abilities to create fill the new judge position that can be done at any site, and then also the difficulties raised on attracting new employees for the Department of Justice, Judicial Department. There are no current job openings with there, so there's no one submitting. So I don't see that as a difficulty right now.
Okay.
I urge you to consider the new building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else in the room that would like to comment? Yes.
Hi, Terry Gentry. I have an address here in Hebner. I'm a citizen of Morrow County quite a while. I'm here just as a citizen. I agree with what John, the letters that John just wrote about keeping the courthouse here in Hebner. I am truly afraid that, you know, that parking area is part of what makes us be able to have the rodeo, but I truly believe that the county is willing to help the rodeo, find a way to park people for just 4 days a year. I'm more afraid of the viability of Hefner as a community if we lose that courthouse building. And even having, you know, the older courthouse as a satellite or as a court, we've already been told that area, and I know for a fact from visiting it that area is not really a very good place to be holding court, and so a new building would obviously be safe for our community. It will improve our viability and our livability here in Hefner just by opportunities and jobs and having something of that importance of our county government here in our community. So I would just like to state that, you know, that courthouse area is ready to go. You could start building tomorrow if you make the decision to do that. And I believe that we can find people to fill jobs there because, you know, more people are moving back to Hefner. We're having more activity. So I would just like the courthouse to go in the parking lot and give us a new building that looks nice, and we'll find some place to park cowboys for 4 days a year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the room that would like to comment? Okay, is there anybody on Zoom? If you would like to comment, please raise your hand. You see anybody, Matt?
I don't.
Nobody?
I
Okay.
don't.
All right, with that, we'll close the public comment section and then move to the open agenda. Is there any items the commission wants to add to the agenda?
About that.
Next, we'll move to the consent agenda. Do you want to pull either of those two out? Or
I don't necessarily want to pull it out. There's a scrivener error on the minutes from the last meeting. I wanted to have corrected.
okay,
So,
so we'll pull out the minutes.
okay.
Okay. And then what about the other one? Are you ready to approve that one? The consent agenda with that?
I'll move for approval of consent agenda item B. I'll second.
Move and second it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. So the next item will be the minutes.
So yeah, in the consent agenda from the previous meeting, it says the Commissioner Grego motion to approve the following items and that he seconded it. That's spot out. This stuff.
Thank
You
you.
need that correct.
I'll entertain a motion to accept with that change.
So second.
Then moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carried. With that, we'll move on to 5A, our first business item. Request for funding from Lower Willow Creek Groundwater Recharge Project. That's our minister, Matt, let's start that off for us.
And so I'm gonna invite our two guests here, and they are kind of the point people for the Lower Willow Creek Groundwater Recharge Project. We've got Kevin Payne and Kip. I always mess up your names, Chris.
Yep.
Yes, thanks. Good. They are looking at an ambitious project to actually recharge the aquifer along Willow Creek from approximately Ray Creek's confluence into the Willow Creek down to the Columbia River. This has been something that they've been working on for several years. The previous board in 2022 authorized a small expenditure to help with a preliminary feasibility study for this project. That has been completed, and so this group is now looking for additional help from the county to complete a full feasibility study to position itself to go after funding, both state and federal funding for this project. With that, I'll turn it over to Kip and Kevin to introduce and review that. We've met with them, Tamara, myself, and Commissioner Drago met initially with them to hear this. We asked them to come and present their request to the board in its entirety. Kevin?
Yeah, so thanks for having us today. Quickly, yeah, we've been looking at this for probably 5 or 6 years in total. Like stated earlier, the county was generous and assisted with the funds for GSI Solutions folks to put together the application for the Oregon Water Resources Department, which was we were awarded and it was successful. We used pickleball funds as well. We're working with Gillum County, and how we've broken this down funding wise is we took the amount of irrigated acres, and then that's kind of how we broke down the costs. So what we're here looking for today is $39,000 match from Morrow County to get to $50,000, which will then be matched by Oregon Water Resources Department to fund the feasibility study. For some of the background and the kind of the history of it and the water rights stuff, I'll turn it over to Kip, and he's kind of got that information.
Thanks again for letting us speak today. So this all started way back in 2017 by the Port of Arlington. They were looking to find a home for a city of Arlington water right. And during that time, we had a feasibility study that was solely funded by Gillum County this year. And long story short, a city of Arlington didn't want to do anything long-term with users on Willow Creek for the 10 years. No one was going to invest in that, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because as the director at the time found deep in the archives a big 5,640 acre-foot of winter water storage right out of Willow Creek that is going to benefit more people, and is already allocated to Willow Creek water right users. So that's when the balls really started to get bigger. So like Matt said, the water right users can use this water where the confluence of Ray Creek meets Willow Creek, which is about 5 miles south of Ione. From there, the water can be pulled and stored and utilized from that point all the way to the Columbia River. If you want to know what 5,640 acre feet of water is in gallon form, that is 1,837,799,640 gallons. It's pretty large. According to the water master, the water can be pulled from starting at December 1 till April 1. And it can be in several different forms, whether building a reservoir and storing it openly, but it really isn't a good location that you could build one reservoir to serve that long, narrow strip of land through Morrow and Gillum County. So that's why we're looking at doing an aquifer recharge project, potentially using existing wells to pull water from the creek, filter it to groundwater standards, and then inject it in the ground and be pulled out at a later time. Right now, a lot of users on Willow Creek, especially further down, myself included, we run out of water generally around July 1, good years, July 15th. And a lot of wells that are in place that were already grandfathered in when the LFU critical groundwater zone was determined, have been seeing less production. You know, some wells had certificated rights at 2,000 gallons a minute, are now producing 400 gallons a minute. So it's kind of a ticking time bomb of the things running out. And then the Willow Creek in a lot of parts in the Morrow County side completely dries up when there's a dry creek bed. And same with Gillum County, there's some wet spots year round, but not enough to justify trying to irrigate out of talking less 25 gallons a minute if you're lucky. So started this chain reaction back in 2020 with the joint project. This is where we're at now. See what we can do. In a nutshell, that's everything.
Okay.
Tons of backstory.
You guys got any questions, Kevin?
So how many sorry. How many plots that are using irrigation and part of it, this is involved? But how many
Landowners?
Land, how many small farms?
20 total, and then we have
16 in Morrow for.
Okay,
Yep.
and I remember we had this discussion, I just want to make sure we understood that. So,
And there's approximately 480 acres in Gillum County that's currently serviced by Willow Creek Water Rights, meter 1,692 acres in Morrow County. So grand total, the project's gonna encompass about 2,172 acres. And I think the plan is now is use Willow Creek water till it historically dries up, and then have a system in place that you can fire up to fill in 2.5 months of to supplement farmers so they can continue to grow crops.
And what's the increase on yield for your, say like alfalfa?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, because everybody's different, but for myself, I'm lucky to get 3 cuttings, but that third one's pretty minimum, and it's pretty much a sympathy cut, because it's mid-August, start to flower, might as well cut it and get something. But if this system was in place, let's say you guarantee good solid 4 cuttings of good yielding. So, and another thing too, like we had in our first meeting, is right now, most of the farmers are stuck growing 4 to 5 different crops because they know they run out of water. That's alfalfa, a couple different grains. If you're small enough acreage, maybe a grass, and maybe some guys can do some sunflowers because they don't need water later on. This could open up growers, big and small, they grow corn, maybe root vegetables, some of the more variety type high dollar crops that would be available to them, just because they know the water is going to be there. Because right now there's no point of even trying, because you're just going to get halfway there and run out of water.
So, yes, my question would be is, what's the contribution that the landowners are putting into this? I mean, you're asking the county for $39,000. What's the people that are going to benefit? What's their skin in the game?
So that's an interesting question. They're kind of curious on what the feasibility study is going to show, the underground hydrology. But of course, everybody is behind it 100% because it's a game changer for them. So they're going to be contributing because they'll need well log info, other information that the hydrology study is going to need. They're going to contribute that. But that's the first question they asked me is, okay, we're interested. What's the county going to help us? So it goes both ways. Exactly what you asked me is what they tell me when this initially started. So,
Because I mean, the 20 landowners, I mean, even if the landowners funded the whole thing, that's, $40,000, that's what, $2,000.
I'm sure there's a meeting caught. It's just kind of an interesting answer to try to give you, because everybody, there's small guys and there's big guys, that there's I can't really give you a solid answer, but everybody's on board. And once we get some more definitive answer, maybe with the hydrology study can show us when because they don't really know how the layout's going to be until we get a feasibility study done.
Any further questions?
What's the, so it says there's like a lot of water stored. Is there, how much of that is there lost? I mean, so I'm assuming there's going to be loss in that.
Yes.
If you recharge, there's.
From what I've heard, there's a similar storage technique is happening over on Butter Creek. And when I've talked to those guys, they said generally the most you'll see is 30% actually leaches out into the aquifer itself. They also put generating when they're pumping the water down to store it to make power as the water's falling to help recoup costs when they pump it back out. Could be different here, could be maybe in a basalt type layer, maybe it holds there, just don't know until we get to the hydrology study. So that's a little bit. I heard the pro of this project is a lot of the Willow Creek area sits in the LB groundwater zone. So you're storing water in a critical groundwater zone, so there is some leaching benefiting the underground hydrology.
And has there already been a study like this done, or what was the previous feasibility study ever done?
Previous feasibility study was only on the Gillum County section, which is about 8.5 miles of Willow Creek. And that was pumping water uphill from the Columbia, because was the city water right we were looking at. And it had a summary report here, which should be about a 15 to 20 year getting your money back out of putting in a system because of the ag benefit and land values that it was going to make. In this case, we're hopefully pushing water down, and I think you'll have a quicker return. But I'm not an engineer, huge numbers guy, but
So, Kevin, I guess it's a good question. What do you see after the feasibility study, it also that this should work? What are we looking at that point, like, cost to have this implemented? You're talking millions of dollars.
Yes, it would be in the millions. What's nice about when you have a feasibility study in hand, there'll be alternatives. I would assume they could give you 2 or 3 examples of systems that could work. What's nice about that and having that essentially a plan is then the hope is we can go to the federal dollars, NRCS. They have several programs that I can see fitting, which will be cost share. So then you get into what is the landowners. So with cost share, it's just that, it's just a cost sharing of the project. So there will more than likely be large inputs from the landowners when it comes to that. So yeah, that's the hope is to go after those large federal dollars. And what they're really looking for is a bunch of like-minded neighbors, lots of partners. So we're looking at 20 folks. Everybody's got the same thing in mind. And that's kind of what they're after. So
And you said like big farms and small farms, so you would do that contribution in like an acreage.
yes.
More than likely,
Yep.
or
Yep.
water usage.
the nice part about the Morrow County section is you already have utilities and down the old railroad right away, which all the agents on each side of it. So you kind of already have a easement in place to hopefully distribute to both landowners, big and small.
Yeah, which we've used before too on the Hefner Lexington pipeline project. So that worked out really well.
With my question would be to Kevin, do we did move forward, do we have the funds available? I thought I saw notes on there that we weren't sure where that was from.
Yeah, I need to identify
Yeah.
potential.
Oh, sorry. Oh, we got it. Thank you. Sorry.
More than likely to be out of general office contingency. Unless the board wants to reallocate reserves to it.
But at this point, it's undetermined where that would come from.
I expect my recommendation would be general operating contingency.
Okay. Thoughts?
Just a question, if I could, Chair. I couldn't recall, what's your timing for the need of the money? When would that funding need to be in place? Is this fairly soon, or is this something that we could push off till another budget year, which would be, 10 months off? What are you looking at?
That would probably put us in a bind.
Okay.
I think we've got a 2-year window, which started was it May or so. So yeah, we're not necessarily up against it, but the sooner the better.
Okay,
So those folks can get going on the study.
thank you. Just to clarify, what sources we need to look at
Yeah.
adjusting to. Well, I can see where there can be some community benefit besides the 20 identified landowners. You know, because once you recharge that aquifer, there would be other people that, you know, figuratively have the straw into the same pool tipping out. But I also do, you know, strongly feel that, you know, everybody should have some financial skin in the game, you know, because, you know, this is the county's, all the county's taxpayer dollars that are going into this. So my motion would be to fund $20,000 to this. And, you know, they either have, you know, less to do it, or those 20 landowners would come up with the remaining $19,000. So my motion is to obligate the county to $20,000 to this project.
Have a match it from the deal. Would you like a match?
Yeah.
Okay,
That way everybody has some skin in the game. Those that are going to benefit are going to have a little financial skin in the game. The 20 landowners, that's only $1,000. You know, the potential return is quite huge.
that's a motion.
Yes, it is.
And I'll second that, so we can have this.
Okay, we'll move to second, further discussion.
So, when discussing, can I ask questions?
Yeah.
Guys,
I can do that, okay, so there again, going back to like the acreage thing, what is that? I guess I would ask Kip, if you were to go to the landowners and say, you know, they're gonna do this much, if you guys can put in this much for the feasibility study, just, I understand they don't wanna take a risk on an unknown, but also the county doesn't necessarily wanna put the whole county's taxpayer at the same risk. I think, was that kind of what you're getting at, Jeff? So I mean, what is the likelihood that the 20 landowners would feel like they could put in, like a match per se? Is that feasible, or?
one of the things we told ourselves we want to do at the very beginning is include every landowner, whether they had 1 acre or they had 200 acres. And so some of these guys, it's small fry, because it's, I don't think you're gonna get money out of them, honestly. And the other thing I think it's gonna hold us up from trying to meet our deadline. Because now I gotta call 20 people and start asking them the whole backstory. The first thing they're gonna ask is, they just didn't fund it, all the way, which I get. I see where you guys are coming from. That's the only bind I'm seeing, is it's gonna throw off our timeline.
And then, so again, small acreage, large acreage,
Yep.
you could do that $19,000 by a per acreage. And see if that way, I mean, I understand the small farmers are the ones that are gonna be having more pushback, right? Because they don't have as much to gain, so maybe they don't have as much skin to put in the game. I don't think it would be fair for all of them to put in $1,000 if you only have 5 acres versus somebody that's 500 acres. So, just a thought on if you would go to them and ask them, what their thoughts are on that.
I mean, if someone came to me with a proposal that I was gonna increase my revenue of my business and it, didn't take very much, I'd take that chance. Yeah. But no one's gonna be subsidizing my business, so.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Alright,
Aye, all opposed, motion carried. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the 5B, consideration for circuit court site location. It's left to Matt again.
Commission, I'm gonna invite Doug to come join up, and I do want to recognize Doug Earls with our Alliance. He's our project manager for this project, has been helping with this. We want to recognize Judge Hill, presiding judge from the 6th Judicial District, and Irma Solis, who's the trial court administrator here, and as well as interested participants from the community. Prepared a short PowerPoint on this just to go through some of the things that we have presented. Pull that.
Matt, do we have design team members online also?
Double check that.
Should.
Yes. I'll unmute a couple of those. Austin's unmuted. Kelly is on. And Lori is as well. And so we have 3 representatives from DLR that's online. I've unmuted all 3 of you, so if you do have anything to chime in, please let me know. And throw my glasses back on. Okay, so from the last meeting, there was a 2-1 vote to undo an exploration of feasibility of Judge Hill's request to have an annex up in the north side of the county. As we've done that, I've met with the design team twice on that. They've been working on some figures and looking into it. And so one of the things that we wanted to do, this is from the presentation that we had in May. Kelly. Okay, DLR also put in there, where does this courthouse want to be? The ideal location is centrally located, a civic node, contains existing amenities, highly visible location, adjacent to other civic functions, and as a civic building, it should not be adjacent to manufacturing and food processing, heavy emitters, and residential sites are generally should be avoided. So just a refresher on some of the indicators that they gave on their general design parameters on that. As we looked at okay, as we looked at this, we looked at the 3 different sites. The fairgrounds, of course, is the 2+ acres right by the fairgrounds that we've looked at before and have completed the studies on where we need to go. The other location that the county owns was originally purchased for a transit site on Columbia and Olson, right there. It is right next to the potato manufacturing processing plant right there. Also, it's adjacent to the rec center and the Sage Center just down the road, and it's on the far east side of the Portland. The other site that we looked at, we haven't looked at definitive sites, but we did get some costing on some of the sites, which we haven't went into negotiations because we're waiting for this determination. I just wanted to throw a couple options of areas that we would look at in Boardman. One is somewhere near the city hall to kind of join it with civic functions. One of them is there's some property available on Front Street on the north side of the freeway that could be accessible and nicely sited for access. The other one is we've got a 5-acre lot that's that we originally had for public works. It's a little bit out of the way and we have some access issues. That one would reduce the impact of any cost on purchasing land, but it is a little bit out of the way. It is still within Boardman city limits, right on the edge. And then right off of Laurel Lane on the east side, there's a couple acres that could be available for county processing. So those are kind of 4 areas that if we were to look at different sites that just kind of come to mind. There are other areas that we could look at if we wanted to open it up to an exhaustive review, but these are some that just immediately come to mind and have some availability of some horse trading and creative access on that. We won't get into the particulars, but just let you know, there are some sites outside of the 2 acres that the county owns. I printed out because I was a little afraid that this would be hard to read. This is from the spreadsheet. This was developed with DLR and it looks very familiar. It's one that we looked at before as we were narrowing down on our site area. This one is talking about the fiscal impacts of the site selection going forward. We talked about $100,000 every month for increase of, additional design time and impacts on costs. This is from this day forward. The impacts, of course, for the fairground sites is the least impactful. If we were to decide on the fairground site today, if we just would decide to explore additionally, there would be an impact for the fairground site for construction costs as they go up. The Hefner having an annex site to the north on the county-owned parcel on Columbia would be the other one that we could move fairly forward to. And one of the things that I found that's not shown on this is I'm tracking down from the architect who helped design the transit center. I believe that there's been a geotech report already done. I don't have that in hand, but if you look at the GIS maps, even on Google Maps, there's 5 pits that were dug, and we have complete design on that transit center ready to go out. And so I just kind of uncovered that this weekend. We've reached out to them, identified who it is. I've got emails out to them, but I haven't had confirmation on that. So the 3 months for geotech environment item, we've got that in there right now. Hopefully by the end of the day, if not tomorrow, I can have a thumbs up if that is indeed taken care of or not. I believe I have a hunch that it's taken care of, but I need to authenticate that. Going with the fiscal impacts, Hefner with Boardman, we anticipate the geotech hasn't been done in any environmental. We'd have 3 months. We believe that site's fairly safe, but you never know. And as we go through ODOT on that one, actually, we don't have to worry about that one. As Boardman often says, they don't have a state road through there, so that should be not applicable, not an unknown. We would have to just do a review of the space needs and such. And we would imagine that the space needs and to restart the schematic design with DLR would take us about a 2-month window. Now that could be done along with the geotech area to reduce time, but if we had to do it sequentially, we'd be looking at about a 5-month loss before we can get into full design area. With that time, the bulk of that would be about 5 months of time, so about $500,000 there, about $130,000 actual costs on that that we'd see immediately. To explore additional sites in Boardman, that would be where we get into challenges. We've talked with the assessor, looking at some comparables of sites that closed parcels. We just looked around the City Hall one because we figured that's the most attractive areas and probably the most expensive. They say they're going $100 to $200,000 per parcel, which ranges from an acre plus. So we put in $250,000 as a starting point for any purchase of 2 parcels in that area. That could be higher or lower based on what the market and where the location is. We do anticipate that there would be specific time lost in negotiating, identifying, bring it back to the board, closing on that. And then we would still have to do the space needs and the schematic design. That one's looking at a fairly significant impact, almost, right around twice of what the cost would be if we were just looking at the site that the county owns already. And again, that's price going forward. We've already lost time and that, as you know. Some of the things on a direct comparison of the sites, as we look at it, the Hefner site is zoned for residential right now, would require a conditional use permit. Generally, that's a fairly straightforward process. Take to the planning commission, make sure you address the lighting, sound, other issues that could impact those areas. In Boardman, the location on Columbia and Olson is light industrial, but we have confirmed that the governmental site is acceptable and is a permitted use. And so that would not require any zoning hurdles on that. If we were to look at new locations, some of those locations are light industrial service areas, which are allowable for governmental or civic use. A couple of the areas around the around City Hall are residential, and so that would require a conditional use permit. The concept of what this new building becomes changes depending on the site. In Hefner, it kind of cements the idea that Hefner is the county seat, which it is. I would put a little caveat on that. The circuit court is a state entity. And so that in itself, while there's a strong historical bond, it does not have a delineation on where the county seat is. However, it's a very strong opinion, and I can understand where many residents are concerned that if the circuit courts move, the county seat would move past that. However, and I'll jump down on that, one of the space impacts on that is if we were to free up the court from the historic courtroom, we would be gaining all that space for additional offices for the county here. And so whether that's moving the BOC over here, retrofit in this area that we currently occupy or whatnot, it does free up space in the Hefner area. The Boardman with the annex system, if we approach it that way, the annex system creates the courtroom up there, which as Judge Hill reported, he would look to have most of his jury trials and such up there. We would still maintain the court area here. One of the items that we looked at the space impact though is if we were to do an annex up there in Boardman, one of the things that we could look at is taking the justice court and moving it over to Boardman, keeping more or less the design the same, the space utilization the same, maybe with a couple more offices for the district attorney that would be needing to go up there. But we'd keep the justice court there, and then we'd gain space in the Irrigants government center, in which we're pretty much full right now, and that would allow us to change areas there. So an option that we could look at there. Utilization for other Boardman sites, a little bit, depending on where we go, what we're looking at. So when we come down with the space impacts, unless we want to really scale back and make this just a court for the circuit court, and that I don't see a size savings, a size reduction of the building as we move that annex up there. It's conceivable, but that would have to go with the 2 months. And one of the things that I really want to kind of just caution about is trying to bare bones it to make it a minimalistic kind of approach, because our county continues to grow. We are looking at a 50 to 75-year plan with this building. And so I think we should approach it with some consideration for space planning and continued growth in Morrow County. As we look at site concerns, the Hefner site, we've got it tucked away in a little residential area. I appreciate the Fair Board. They at first had several concerns about the parking, and they've really several of them have come around and said, we're willing to work with this. We want the courthouse still be in Hefner. We're willing to work on it. We realize it's just a couple days a year, or, if we have other events, it's a fairly minimal impact. That said, that site is owned by us. We'd have to do a little bit of land acquisition on the one side just for the staff entrance, but early indications is that the owners of those properties will go into that. And so it's fairly much straightforward. We could get in design and move forward. We do need to mitigate a few impacts to the neighborhood and for the school parking, which is use of county land. So we're in the driving seat there. The Boardman location on the Columbia and Olson, we are right next to the potato plant. Now I'd like to say that we're upwind from it, but you all know how the wind shifts in Morrow County at times. However, the idea that it's in an industrial area. I would say we're on the edge of the industrial area, but with the rec center, stage center, BMCC, with the assisted living behind the CCS and that's developing. This is not your typical industrial area. It's very light industrial and could be approachable. I would also like to say that there's additional land right adjacent to it, that if we were to develop this, could the courthouse there, we could conceivably look at securing the other 3 parcels, locating a new public health building and a transit center there, and kind of making it a rural county, a county center for the Boardman area. The other locations in Boardman, we're not sure if we're just buying the 2 acres for the court. That just limits it to that. If we were to buy more acreage, that kind of gives some determination. As we look at it, I would, from my personal expression, I'd really like to get a direction to move forward. I think there's a lot of pluses to the Columbus and Columbia and Olson location. That if we were to choose to have an annex in Boardman, I'd like to start working on that direction and going for it. I'm just concerned as we further kick this can further down the road, we just run into more and more obstacles. If we were to determine that we want to keep the courthouse in Hefner, I'd love to unleash our design team and get them going on that and moving forward there. In the end, we can make this work as staff. There are some specific hurdles, one way or the other. You can easily say there's more growth in Boardman and Oregon than down south. And most of the cases are there as attributed by Irma and Judge Hill, that most of their caseload is there and amenities that allow lawyers to come in. There is significant value in the historic impact of the courthouse in Hefner. And whether it's directly related or perceptually related, the idea of having the circuit court in the county seat is a strong feeling as seen from the communications that have been sent in on this item. What we need from you, and I want to turn it over to discussion by the Board of Commissions, but what we would like to do is just answer that first question. Do we want to pursue a court annex in Boardman along with maintaining the historic courthouse in Hefner? That's the big question today. If the answer is no, we have our direction, we get working and taken care of. If it's yes, then the question is, do we want to use that county property on Columbia and Olson, or do we want to pursue other locations in Boardman? So it's kind of a 2-pronged thing. Do we want a Boardman annex? And then if how that question is, just further direction of the staff. If we can get that direction, we can move forward. And with that, I've talked a bit. Doug, do you have anything to add on?
I guess just a question. Did you hear back from OJD? Is going to Boardman? Does the funding follow that?
Yes. Judge Hill reached out to them. I did not include that in the packet. They overwhelmingly said yes. The monies that we have ascribed to the Hefner site can easily be adjusted to a Boardman site. They would have no issues with that. Okay, I appreciate that. That was one thing that Doug brought up last week, and I apologize I didn't report back directly to you on that.
I actually think 1 and 2 should be split myself, because the decision to move to Boardman may be contingent on a different site in Boardman. Sure. And so if you make decision number 1, that's without even knowing where your second site in Boardman would be or anything like that. So, that's my thought on the thing. I think, that takes away decision number 2 without knowing anything. So, I mean, if the board wants to proceed with looking at a second site in Boardman, then they shouldn't make decision number one, because, you know, they shouldn't say yes to decision number one. Unless, well, does that make sense? Remind the mugs again.
No, I
You see what I'm
agree with you,
saying?
Chair.
Because a second site will, the board would sit here and go, okay, we got the second site set up. You know, maybe one of, you know, several of us want, or who, whatever. Maybe somebody wants it, doesn't want it at the transit center, but they want it in Boardman. What was to be the transit center. Say, yeah, I want it in Boardman, if it would be next to City Hall, but I don't want it in Boardman. If it's at the transit.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's a valid point. I guess, the ordering of this one is, kind of showing their, if we're gonna go in Hefner, let's get going on Hefner. If we'd like to continue to open up the site selection, we can easily flex to that. This one might be a little bit more of a pointed or forced question, so my apologies for that, but you're.
No, that's fine. You know, I'd like to, I think, I don't know how you guys feel. We could answer any of these questions you want. But I think you ought to ask the question, do you want to pursue another site in Boardman? Then you narrow it down to, you say no. Then you narrow it down to a site in Hefner and a site in Boardman. If we say yes, then we go back into the site selection process, and there is no decision today. So, I mean, that clarifies a little bit to me. I don't know. So, what do you guys think?
Well, I don't have a problem with the county site.
So with you, it just comes down to making a decision between Hefner and Boardman.
Right.
Because the only site you want to see is
We own it.
the one we own up with.
I don't see the drawbacks as Matt alluded to, you know, there's CCS is building a new facility, which would be on the northwest corner of our property there, so.
I would ask,
Obviously, they didn't feel that being next to an industrial area was going to be harmful for their clients.
Justin, are we gonna require a vote on this part right here if we're deciding?
Well, I think for the direction of my staff, I think at the end it's gonna be a vote.
There's multiple questions.
Yeah, I guess it depends how you want questions. I know these are the questions to be determined, but if there was a motion to, I guess the motion could be, could just even be the fact of saying, do you want to research, take more time to research specific locations in Boardman, more options. The other could be a motion to proceed with a circuit court annex in Boardman on the county property. And that by itself, I think would be sufficient for county staff to move forward with the annex and keeping the courthouse here. I think these are questions maybe phrased this way, but doesn't have to be this exact format. So that's my, I think a motion required should be needed to get a set direction to county staff about which way to go forward.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is, if we decide to go and look at a different site in Boardman, if it's a motion and a vote, I'll just tell her, I will abstain. Because I think the courthouse should be built in Hefner at the county seat. So I don't think it would be right for me to participate in a decision on another site in Boardman. So I just want to put that out. So. If, I guess.
It's up to you, Junior.
Well, so yeah, so what I'm getting here is that, you know, there's two pretty set opinions, and that I'm the swing vote, so you know, I'll say it. You know, and I'll address that now. And I know there were letters that were put forth that said that I promised to keep it in Hefner, and just to be clear, I never promised to keep the courthouse in Hefner. I said it was my preference that it go. Just want to clarify that for the letter. And I still believe that, you know, Boardman doesn't have a lot to gain from a courthouse, right? I think Hefner has a lot more to gain from the courthouse in its location. So, but that's a personal opinion. That's kind of I would say that's an emotional decision, and I usually make most of my decisions logically with the numbers, the growth in the north end, the history going forward, this being a 50-year project, you know, not a 2-year project. It's going to be there for 50 years in service, and in 50 years, I see there being a vast growth in the north end versus the south end, just because of demographics. So I'm torn. We'll say that. You know, so I'm working on somewhere between the emotion and the logical answer here, and I'm struggling. So,
Are you prepared to make a decision? Well, let's get a motion on the table and we'll see if you're ready to make a decision.
it's okay.
And I would,
I don't want to take any more time. We've already taken too much time. Kind of going back and looking at some of the comments that were made when we first picked the fairground site. You know, somebody's gonna come out and shoot at our kids. Somebody's gonna come to the school and take our kids. We're gonna lose parking. There was lots of anti comments about it being at the fairgrounds up front. And now it doesn't seem to be as big a deal, but I still take those to heart. You know, I don't see an issue with it personally being, I mean, it's not a lot closer to the school than we have right now. They'll have a lot more security, so I don't have that as a personal concern, but I do understand the concern of the citizens. And, you know, unless they were just said in spite, which I don't know if they were or not, you know, I have to take that into consideration. So,
Okay, anybody want to approach a motion here? I think we've taken what's up there, the first one on the table, right? So we're basically down to Boardman or Hefner. Do you agree with that? We're basically down to making that decision to go with the county-owned site in Boardman or the county-owned site in Hefner, next to Fairgrounds. Is that fair?
yeah, I don't want to pursue any more time of delaying this or that magnitude of $1 million plus to look at a new site. We've already prolonged this long enough. Like I said, if we'd have just put it at the fairgrounds to begin with, it would be partially built. So that makes it a little tougher for me to say, let's put it at the fairgrounds, because with that much opposition for a year concerns. So, but I'm not sure that I'm prepared to say, let's move to Boardman.
So
I'm having a tough time here. Absolutely, Dave, I'm having a tough time here. Yeah, and I mean, if you guys want to make a motion, I will have to make that decision today, and I will do it as best as I can.
You want to move? Yeah, you want me to? You speak up or I'm ready.
So I will make the motion that we decided on the county owned property. You know, so then when we get to the discussion phase of statewide, I feel that search should be.
Wait a second.
I'll have to second it to get into discussion.
Okay, I'm moving second, further discussion.
So I believe that that's where it should be, because as been pointed out by Judge Dan Hill, over 80% of the cases are up there. I believe that the business of county or any government is to provide customer service. And one of the ways that you provide good customer service is by providing services where the customers are. You have 80% of the cases being affected by those people, or those people are up there. We should try to get those services close to those people. 65% of our registered voters are in the 2 zip codes in North End of Britannia. That means 65% of your potential jurors reside in those 2 zip codes. So again, making that access so it's easier to them. We've heard about, you know, we won't be losing circuit court services in South County to this proposal. We've heard that the state will continue to provide circuit court services in Hefner. There will still be the employee that is employed to circuit court will still be reporting to Hefner, so there won't be a loss of jobs in Hefner. By locating in Boardman, the state has said that they will be looking at adding 4 additional positions, so we've just created 4 more jobs in Morrow County. And the state has said that they would intend to give us additional judge time in Morrow County. So that again improves customer services to the citizens of Morrow County by having additional judge time. You know, it just again, as the growth happens, you know, we talk about 50-year project, the growth will continue to happen up there. So 80 will at some point maybe be 90% of the cases. I feel that that's what's best for the county as a whole. And we'll still be providing those services to circuit court services to the south end of the county here in Hefner. So that's why I made that decision.
My comment would be, I still, and haven't changed my opinion, is I think it should be located in that Mariposa County seat. I think we can address the problems that have come forward about it. I think we can take care of that. So it's pretty simple. Doesn't change. It's what I've always said. So. Any comment?
No, my comment is, you know, but if I listen to the two arguments, there's a lot more logical compensation for it to go north. And I understand that, because I prefer to stay here on an emotional level, but on a logical level, it needs to go to the north. And I personally would prefer to be at a different site than the county-owned site, but I'm not opposed to it being there with the way things are growing around there. It's definitely becoming less industrial and more civic minded and city minded. So I think it's that site. If it goes to the north end of the county, that would probably be potentially the best site and most cost effective site to put it down.
Okay.
So, you know, I hear, you know, I've reached out to people, and I've been reached out to. I'm getting very few people that say they don't want it in their community, right? So I don't have anybody in Hampton saying we don't want it here. I don't have anybody in Morgan saying we don't want it there. I do have people in the north end that said they would be happy to have it there. Looks like the south end has a lot more interest in their courthouse being here for personal reasons. And I love that marijuana see up here thrive. And I said that in the forum, that was why my preference was that it stays down here. But you know, Jeff's got some compelling points. So unless you call a vote, I guess I'm gonna have to make up my mind.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Just one quick comment, just make sure, I know it's pretty clear to everyone, we all understand what the motion was, but by the idea of saying placement and boardman, is the idea of a placement of certain court annex, not the idea of the entire courthouse moving to boardman, but the idea of saying annex and boardman with keeping the facilities here. I know you.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Valerie, could you read what you think that motion is?
Commissioner Wethel's motion to cite on the county-owned property in Boardman.
Circuit Court Annex.
Cite the circuit court.
Do you want to name the property? Do you say county-owned property?
Yes.
Okay, well, there's two county-owned properties, one out
That's a corner of
County-owned.
Olson and Columbia.
It's pretty clear.
Justin.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's just why I make sure it's very clear, more for the minutes and record that wasn't just placement of the courthouse and boardroom we talk about, but of an annex facility. Because the idea being, if there was a motion to place the courthouse, we all understood that would mean full courthouse, not an annex in Hackner, not an annex in Morgan, full courthouse in Hackner. So even though we understood that one,
Good point question, so later down, it's clear.
Okay, they're moving seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Are you abstaining?
No, you went to the second one pretty quickly. I'm still debating, Dave. So where are we at?
I can do it around again, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Motion carried 2-1. Okay. Next item up is consideration for county logo design. That's Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you have direction now?
Yes. All right. I'd like to share my screen again. In Chair Sykes, pointed out that this is probably not a good timing for doing this, if we just begin this vote. And I do apologize for that. Let me premise this, if people are just saying, county logo design of what in the world is Administrator Jensen thinking? The essence of this is, and I'm not quite sure, I didn't do the research. We have a very nice county seal, which is used on our official documentation and such, which does have the historic courthouse at the center of it. It's got a lot of detail in it, and sometimes when we use it for anything like articles of clothing or kind of to publish type of things, sometimes that detail gets lost. Many counties and municipalities have taken it upon where they have the county seal and then they have a county logo. And the logos are generally used for vehicles, letterhead for official resolutions and that, and so forth. The reason why we brought this up is generally our county vehicles do not have any kind of emblem on there designating it as a Morrow County vehicle. One of the things as we're buying vehicles this year is I want to look into that. I feel it a shame that as we drive down through Hefner, which trucks are the Hefners and which ones are just light trucks with the yellow plates on them. And we need to make sure this particularly comes into play when we have people responding, whether it's district attorneys or whatnot responding to a site or code enforcement or anything, it's things that can designate the county for who it is and is emblematic of it. I do want to just show some counties that do use a seal and a logo. Multnomah County has the mountains and the water symbol as combined on there. Umatilla County, I wasn't aware they had an official seal because their logo is so emblematic of what their county has, but they do have a county seal there. And interesting enough, the one that we always get called on is Morrow County, Ohio. Has, their county seal, they're very agricultural based. Their logo is very streamlined and modern. Love life, live rural. So they added a slogan to it as well. What we'd like to do is before we start getting things ordered for the vehicles, we'd just like to touch base with the BOC and see if you're open to having us look at a logo design process. I would not rule out that the courthouse could possibly be maintained as part of that image. The idea that we thought there's several different ways that you can go through and go through a logo process is you can just have an internal design and put it out. I would prefer to have a more public engagement type of items. You could, on the other end, you could have a professional group come in, have a town hall, get reads of what people feel represent it, and then have that professional group do it. The way I'd like to do it is set aside a little bit of funds and put it out for a public engagement where we say, community, bring out your designs. Show us what you feel Morrow County is and explain what that is. Put it out to the high schools and elementary schools and everybody else, and just make it a county competition where they can present their designs. The BOC would review the designs, come to a top 5 or top 10, and then we put it on the website and allow people to have a time where they can vote on those and create a finalist. Then we take with that final image, take it to a graphic artist or marketing group and have them polish it out for a logo design. That's something we're looking at. And so before I went down that, because that we'd be pulling it from like consulting fees or items that we have in the budget line item. Before I start going down that road, I just wanted to touch base with you as the elected body to see if you'd like to explore that, or if we should just continue and put the county seal on the cars, which is totally acceptable as well. I just figured that this was a window of opportunity for us to just bring that question to the light.
Do we have a picture of the county seal?
Right, yeah.
I actually just on my last one, I do. I mean the seal.
So the stick, Laptop.
And I can share this.
And I'm just,
Yes. It's pretty detailed, so when you have it small, it loses some things. And so, and we found out as we embroidered it on some jackets, it really loses a lot of the details and you have to kind of clean up the image and make it a little more basic before you do it. I think it's very apropos. I would not consider changing this. It's great for our legal documentation, and can be used as a seal for vehicles. It pretty much be a black and white seal. And so, which is fine. I just wanted to, before I start ordering them, just wanted to bring it up to the board.
Okay, we just moved the county's new courthouse board, and I think we ought to let this set. Start pulling that, that building off that logo.
I'm not in favor.
Okay.
Even without what Dave's talking about.
Yeah,
It's just-
I need to, I don't see anything wrong with that.
And I understand what you're saying, when you shrink it down for embroidery or something, But like when I looked at Umatilla County's logo, if you shrunk that down for embroidery, they're not gonna have any detail there either.
Big age, yeah. There's a little expensive, yeah.
So, like, not even with what consideration Dave said, I'm not in favor of it.
Okay. If that's the consensus approach, we'll just start ordering decals with the seal and move on to vehicles. Appreciate your input.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, next up is 5D. Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund Discretionary Fund Grant Application. Ben, there it is.
Morning, Commissioners.
Hello.
We've got a few things on the agenda for you this morning. The first one there's stiff discretionary grant. That the stiff discretionary is a competitive grant. It's not part of our formula. Stiff funds that we get that we make application for. This will be in addition to what funded our current operations for the Hedner's Boardman and also the Boardman routes that we're currently running. It was funding that we received to do that. So it's the same grant, it's a new grant cycle. So we're asking to put forward another application. And this application would be to expand the service in Boardman. So when the original grant was put together for Boardman, Boardman was smaller. It was put together pre-COVID, and then we received an extension on that grant. But Boardman is expanding. The area's grown, population's grown. There's houses and roads that didn't exist when the original design was put together. So one of the things that is we put the routes together and we designed routes to work in Boardman, it created a pretty long route. Right now that route's about 45 minutes to make a complete circle, which is feedback we received. It is a lot of time to get from one place to the other, especially on a service that has never existed before, and trying to get people to use it. They're like, well, I can walk across Boardman in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, where I'm used to walking. So and then wanting to get people to work, be able to use it to go to work and other things. The other thing that was left out in the original funding for the route in Boardman was the route only was slated for a 6-day-a-week operation. Part of this funding also moves us into a 7-day-a-week operation. So we'd be more in line with other cities, municipalities that are using public transit. We would offer that 7 days a week. So you wouldn't have to, if you worked on the weekends, or if you wanted to go to the water park on the weekend, to the splash pad or whatever, the rec center, you'd be able to do that on Sunday, which currently we're not offering to be able to do that. So if you want to go to those things on the weekend, and or you can go to work on, you still have to figure out how to get there on that 7th day. So this funding, this application does include being able to fund that. as well, and it includes things like insurance and preventive maintenance, fuel, additional salary, things like that for drivers. So that one D on the agenda is an expansion in Boardman, and the overall goal of that is to increase the head time on a bus route. There'll be multiple buses, so hopefully we'd be under 20 minutes, and realistically, the goal is about a 15-minute. You could get around in about 15 minutes between buses. So we're going forward on that one.
And this is a non-matching fund?
So we have requested that we would have, we requested to be considered for a 10% match on this grant. It is 20%, we're not granted that, which we could then pull that match amount out of our stiff formula funds. We could match out of that for that match amount.
So it wouldn't be coming from general fund dollars, it'd be all from state and federal grants.
Correct. Which is current, that's the current model.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure we're staying. So,
Same point. Same page.
and then I also see that some of the goals are for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and I know we've kind of gotten away from, doing the electric and stuff, so is that gonna have a big effect?
So the alternative to look at there is the state and federal both, they do consider alternative fuel, propane to be an alternative fuel. So that is a avenue that we can look at, because we've determined that in our geographic location, an electric vehicle is not feasible, right? And even when I've spoken with manufacturers and I've said, hey, bring one out here and let's drive it back and forth to Hetner a few times, they're like, no, we're not, no, it won't do that. So that was even the manufacturer's general consensus, like, no, we're not there.
I just want to make sure that we weren't gonna get, hand tied again, like on the last one.
Correct.
Okay.
Any further questions of Ben?
No, I would move to submit the state discretionary application for 2025-27 funding cycle.
Second.
Move a second and further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Okay, next up would be the statewide transportation improvement fund discretionary grant application fiscal year 25-27, Boardman to Dallas. Yep.
All right. So in this one, again, it's not funding that if whether awarded or not, it's not going to affect anything that we're currently doing. This is again another project that's in addition to. But if you look at the state's overall transit plan, their goals, what they want to see in transit, things that they're funding are connections that provide transit to citizens of Oregon statewide. And as it being in a rural area, the distance between cities, they like the idea of being able to interconnect those with public transit, right? If you go to the Dalles, go to Hood River, the Columbia Area Transit has a Columbia Gorge Express. Columbia Gorge Express goes from Hood River to Portland, takes you to Gateway Transit Center, and from there you can get on the TriMet bus. You go to the airport, you go anywhere in Portland, right, on TriMet. And then Columbia Area Transit also comes back to the Dalles where it connects with the Lean. So this grant, this project and proposal, essentially ties that into the link in the Dalles, right? So it goes from Boardman, and it would stop there, and it would stop in Arlington, and it would stop again in the Dalles, and then you transfer from either onto the link bus, which would give you the opportunity to get around in the Dalles, transfer onto the Columbia Area Transit bus, which would get you to Hood River. You could ride their city bus there, or you could continue on the Columbia Gorge Express, and you could go all the way to Portland. So while those services, there's a charge throughout on those services, it would still be, much cheaper. And the example I used is going to the airport, right? So somebody here wanted to go to the airport, the fuel and the time that you wouldn't be having to drive yourself and then pay the $15 a day to park in just the economy parking, right? It'd still be cheaper than that.
When was the last time you flew?
Last weekend,
Oh, and it was $15.
it was $15 a day, that's
Is that
how.
short term?
Yeah, it was the economy all the way out at Cascade Station, so then I had to ride their shuttle all the way in too, so.
If you park at the,
No, I don't even get that close. Oh, it's, so this project, fills that gap in there, and in this request, there's again funding, request in here for purchase of some additional vehicles, to service this again, and then we included the preventive maintenance, insurance, salaries to employ more people. So, all of these, proposals, do bring additional jobs to Morrow County, to the loop. They, are serving the need of being able to transit the state, using public transit, which is part of the state's agenda for public transportation. The other part of it is it positions us to be a kind of a transit hub, where coming from the east then could tie into us as well. And supports the idea of getting the funds to build a transit center, like we discussed previously, right? It makes us more of a hub at that point, and so would be looked more favorable at to get those funds to. Again, there's no guarantee that they would, but it gives us a better position to, hey, these are the things we have going on, and this is why we need these funds.
so just for clarification, is this like you would call and make a scheduled trip? There's not a daily trip, somebody's gonna be driving daily from Portland to the Dalles just to do it.
So the way that we currently have it slated, this would run as a fixed route service, like an express service. It'd make 4 trips a day, 7 days a week. To and from the Dalles. So, you just be able to look at the schedule and say, I need to be on that bus, and
At 8 o'clock, the bus is pulling out of Boardman and.
Right, so I guess my question is, what if there's nobody on the bus? Does it go?
so,
Or is there a way to know if there's somebody at the other end that needs to come this way, communication wise? I don't know, it seems like a lot of driving around for nothing to me if you don't have people on the bus.
right, and initially, that's probably what it would be. Our fixed routes we're starting to see ridership on those, but there was a lot of days that we went around Boardman and we went back and forth. But now, we're starting to see is a little more frequency and reliability, which in the transit world, that reliability is everything. Once they can't, I was gonna ride your bus today and I can't, they're not gonna come back. They're gonna be very, very shy to try it again. So that bus would theoretically run, and that's what these grants are designed for, right? The states and to pilot the program.
Right. So if somebody was gonna ride it though, there would be a fee.
So the current model that we have set up, there would not, not initially, we're not looking at charging. Now, if you wanted to connect and use Columbia Air Transit, their fees pretty nominal. I think to ride to the airport or to the gateway, if you're going into Portland, it's $10. If you're riding just around the city, it's $1. So it's and then you can buy, they have an annual pass, it's $40. You can ride any of their trips for $40 for a whole year. So if you're gonna use public transit very often, that seems like a logical way to go.
And you say the same theory on this for match funds would come out of.
Correct, and again, on this one, if you're looking at the application, it asks why we feel we should be considered for the 10%. Why it's applicable, we do meet that criteria, so hopefully they would allow, the 10% match on that, so the matching dollars would be only 10% of the grant award.
So kind of my question is that, it shows that you expect 21,000 unique riders in the first year.
I would go with that being a taco.
Okay, because I know number 41 on the form, it says, what is the predicted number of unique riders will be served in the first full year of service? And it says 21,484.
I would thinking that should be 2,400 would be a more realistic expectation there. I'm thinking I may have hit a zero too many times.
Yeah, okay, not a problem.
I can adjust that before it gets submitted to the state.
We'd also just like to, if the commission approves this, we'd just like to do a final once over on it before it's submitted. There's a couple of little risk assessment things that we need to correct, and so it's due tomorrow evening. So if you're okay with the essence of it for the application, we can polish it up and get that going.
No, you and I talked about this probably a year ago, about that connection to Portland. I mean, it sounds like certainly there's lots of people who could benefit. So.
Well, I think maybe I read it in here, is that, this will alleviate some of your on-demand drivers. So some of those people that want to use the dial ride, that they can hop on the bus, get down.
So that is another aspect of it. Our demand response service, while it's not going away, the spirit of it's not changing. The hope is that more people that need to take shopping trips or they need to go for other reasons, not necessarily on this type of a time schedule, will be able to utilize the fixed route service, and folks that have a set appointment and a set time then can use the demand response, and in doing so, hope is that we free up more of the demand response and have more availability for those that are calling in, and even the goal there is to narrow that window of time down. So if you call today, this morning, then you could potentially get a ride this afternoon. That would be the hope. And that would be the essence of a true demand response. You call and get a ride, within 24 hours or something like that. So that's another piece of this that we're working towards, but it would be a byproduct of this.
And then is there a time in the future that it would be an eastward?
So the eastward connection,
Not a lot going on.
well, so the state has provided funding. This funding for the eastward connection that was slated to come into Erie and Norman was provided to the Confederated Tribe Kayak Public Transit, and I've reached out, haven't heard back, but that system is supposed to connect with our system, and again, back to making us a hub that we would be the then eastward hub as well, to connect with that public transit organization system there from Pendleton and eastward.
So, I mean, I guess I don't see the downside for the county submitting to this, so since it's all going to be paid for with state dollars, so. I'll move to submit the STIP discretionary application for the Boardman, the Dallas connector for FY 25-27.
Second.
Second, for the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Okay, thanks, Ben.
He's got one more.
We got one more, wow.
So this one,
Let me read it just so that.
Oh, yes, sir.
Public understands everybody. This one is, the topic is 2024-25 transportation veterans in highly rural area grant agreement. Morrow County grant. Oh, go ahead.
All right, so this one is a grant, which we've received several years in a row. This one is actually, it's been awarded. So the way it is put in is the, Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs puts in for the rural counties to, receive this grant. It's one that we currently have. It's an every year that it's put in for us for $45,000. The documents are in there, the agreement for this grant is in there, but what it pays for things. And it's a narrow window of things that it can be used for. But it can be used for, there's a percentage of it that can be used towards, salary for drivers that are driving veterans. It can be used for fuel. It can be used for portion of insurance on the vehicles. It can be used for, advertisement that includes, things like, serving Morrow County veterans or veteran rides, in Morrow County. So that it again, what makes it a narrow scope is that they have to be going to a medical appointment that is what the Veterans Affairs considers a, authorized or what's the word I'm looking for here? It's basically an authorized appointment for veteran services, but it does contribute to offsetting the expenses on those trips. So it's a grant that we've had for, well, we've been using it for the time I've been with the county. We've had this grant, been using it. So it's a zero match grant, doesn't require, there's no match on our part. So it's money from the Department of Veterans Affairs to use towards those items.
And I noticed you put out a monthly, see a monthly statement that shows how many veterans are riding versus, is that something you have to document for this?
So all that information that I give in my quarterly report, it also does get submitted to them as well. They do receive that as part of the documentation for the veteran rides. It's a little more detailed. It actually gives names and where they went and how long they were there, that sort of thing. But it's one of their forms that we fill out.
And we're staying in their guidelines of doing that.
Correct.
So this appears that it's a reimbursement grant.
It is a reimbursement grant. So at the end of the month or quarter, either way, they let us submit it either way. We submit everything, submit all the documentation for it, and then they mail a check, a physical check back for the reimbursement of this.
So have we ever been able to use the whole $45,000?
We got really close. I think we got within 5,000 last year.
That's good. I mean, it's good they're providing those services to the veterans and it's helping to offset cost of the program. So again, I don't see any downside for the counties. I'll just move for the approval of the 24-25 transportation of veterans and highway rural access grant agreement.
I'll second.
Moved in second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Okay, thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Next up is our business organ, water, wastewater fund and water letter.
Commissioners, this is a neat little item that we just wanted to bring up. You may have seen the press release on that. Business Oregon did provide us grant awards for $20,000, 2 grant awards and $20,000 amount to study a water system and potential wastewater system in the West Glen area. And so this is a great step. With this in place, we will be putting out an RFP to an engineer. This will be used to help create a feasibility study. We are looking to do public engagement to make sure the public is on board with this. Because as we do this study, this actually helps us qualify for the SEP funding from the Port of Morrow is having to pay for. And so one of the things they want to make sure is we have that public engagement taken care of. That additional $10,000 to $15,000 is not part of these 2 grants, but this is a great thing to get started on. We will be doing an RFP. We just wanted to let you know that, under your direction, we have started doing this and this is the first trickle of grants that we hope that, more will come through as we look to take a leadership role on the nitrate issue, in the north side of the county. So,
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions on that? This is kind of the information. Okay, Jeff, you got anything?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Thanks for the update.
yeah, thank you very much. I'm gonna call. Reports.
okay.
Call meeting back to order and we'll start with our department, or we'll continue with our department. I don't see a written report from the clerk. Is Bobby on Zoom? I guess not. Okay. And then our public works, we have a written and Eric Serbo here. Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We are August, done and gone. So throughout August, road crew, as much like last month, been around the county repairing blowouts on the gravel road system. There's still harvest going on with certain crops, and we're still chasing those problems areas. Fixing the blowouts and adding rock to the roads where needed. Here recently, we've been doing a lot of repairs to cattle guards. Just again, we have a lot of old, worn out, wearing out cattle guards, and just recently been through a rash of repairs. I have been working with the landowners on replacing some of these that are just getting beyond repair. And just communicating the cattle guard policy that we have that I think it was 2019, but some still aren't aware. So I've been trying to communicate.
So what is cattle guard policy, since you brought it up? And none of us were here.
I need to get it on the website if it's not on there already. The person will probably be texting me in 2 minutes. But there was a fairly old policy, I think, back from the 90s. It doesn't feel old, but I know that's good. And in 2019, the previous public works director and a subcommittee off the road committee got together and came up with a new policy that the commissioners at that time adopted. So I need to get on the website, but it just more clearly defines who owns the cattle guard and what property it's attached to, what happens when a property is sold, and how that transfers, and how it gets maintained.
That's also for someone.
Yeah.
Talk about.
Yep.
Thanks.
You bet. Because I touched on gravel roads, but since the fires we do up in the mountains, we do have county roads up there, as you guys know. We're actively currently working on repairs up there, fixing culverts that have been smashed and demolished, and extending some signage, drainage, all of that sort of thing. So I'm keeping track of all that, and then I'll be talking to the emergency manager of the county and look at the recovery on that.
Yeah, make sure you get all that very well documented, because they're expecting precise documentation to get recovered.
I'm keeping it project by road. So I went for the 2103 and 2104 and the 21. Sorry, yeah, no problem. Yeah, so we'll be continuing to work on that for weeks. Yeah. And also this during August, just more public action. We have a few to go, and we'll get those done before the plants go. Just doing 3 of them are on Baker Lane. So yeah, pretty decent patches, yeah, to get through the winter. Airport, really not much of significance. We've been dealing with some weed issues up there, spraying and some mowing, and then just a little bit of cleanup after the helicopters that were stationed there. Just some sweeping of the runway and the taxiway.
We had a little bit of a grass fire there recently.
believe it was, more, well, not at the airport, it's closer to Piper.
Okay,
Monday morning.
okay. I just heard there was a fire near the airports.
Yep, yep. Then it was, yeah, closer to Piper. Weeds, no, Corey gives us monthly report, but, just a little bit here. Corey has moved into the new facility here in Hefner. He's very hopeful, having him in there and having that facility and consolidating all his equipment and materials. And the climate control is a big one. You get into the fall and the spring and basically he won't have to learn his every day. So I'm really happy for that space, and he is too. Corey's also been working with our grader operators, working on a fall blading plan, and we're taking steps to improve the effectiveness for weed control applications. We've spent a lot of time and efforts on the asphalt paved roads since 2017, and we're trying to kind of spend a little more time and efforts on the gravel road system. That's part of why we have the weed issues out there. We're just not grading them out. So we're working on that. And yeah, solid waste, really not much. Just as usual, collecting garbage and hauling it off. Any questions you guys have beyond?
So did you have a specific date on the Baker Lane?
No.
No, just in the next month.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. In the next month. I'll be out for a couple of weeks on medical stuff, but we're gonna make sure that's done before the plant's closed. Absolutely. Okay. I think it's fair to say within the next 30 days.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Anything else?
No. Did you, maybe you covered it, maybe I went out when you did, just how things going with the windows coming in and everything? Okay, that.
For the most part, we have had some struggles with routes and staying on route. The windows themselves, that the component parts going fine. I don't have any issues. It's more the construction traffic keeping them on route. But been working with the developer, and they're very responsive, and asking them to add signage to keep people going the right way, and they have. But yeah, there's been quite a bit of communication with the construction other than the window components. That's been doing okay. Pretty good.
I guess just sitting here and thought about is any updates on replacing Mike or changing position or
Yes.
number two or?
Yes. So we received I believe 6 applications for the deputy public works director position. They're being the applications are being scored as we speak, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be interviewing 3. I have to make that decision, and interviewing, I think we fell on the 19th, I believe we fell on the 19th. HR and I, we're working on finalizing all of that, but yes, we're moving forward with.
Now, on the parks, you sell fire crews in OSP, right?
I saw a picture an aerial picture, it looks like it's still full.
Yes, they're still using it, not as extensively during the hot burn at Lone Rock, but they are using it as a staging area for some
I
continuing.
guess one of my questions is, we usually meet up there once a year. You guys still consider that, or with all those going on, you just kind of want to forget about it?
I'm always good to go up there and see the new
When is
inhabitants.
it close? October?
Usually the beginning of November, sometime in November.
How do you think the franchisor and you guys would feel about us just meeting up there like we have in the past?
I'm fine with that. You should talk to Vince.
Well, one of the concerns that I would have again, is the internet up there is probably less than it was the last time we were there. So the internet, for whatever reason, has gone down a little bit. That was just up there.
Didn't you do a work around? Didn't you have like something?
We had to do it as a backup, I think,
Yes.
but it wasn't working very well.
So that would be.
And one other thing is the concessionaire is closed on Wednesdays, so if we want them to They do like, Thursday through Tuesday or whatnot, or Thursday through Monday or whatnot.
Like I said, it's too much hassle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm always game to do it, but if it's, yeah.
If we want, we could explore that, or
Sure, yeah,
possibly, could you do that? See if we can, and if we have to change it, you know, make we publicize it, I mean,
Yeah.
I can.
would you like
I
to
don't like
shoot
it, I
for,
don't know about you.
for the 18th meeting or the first meeting in October? If I could suggest the first meeting in October, just
Yeah.
to,
We do have land use hearing scheduled that day, was that anything?
yeah. They'd have to go all the way up there for that, so.
yeah, if it's too big of a,
Yeah, don't,
Pass like
that's too much.
yeah.
pass.
yeah, so that's a long ways for somebody to have to come up. And I don't know how good the Zoom would work.
Yeah, I'll just check it out. Okay.
And
Because we've
I would
always
say
done-
part of that is checking out what the internet connectivity would be.
Yeah.
I will say I was there, the weekend that it opened, back up after the fires, and did eat dinner there and had a phenomenal steak, it was delicious. Yeah, so I'm glad to see the concessionaires back there. And I'm not sure his hours then were a little off because of the fire, so he wasn't showing up until like 11 and it was 11 to 8 p.m. But yeah, anyway, it was good.
I wanna add if I can, so I should have, with the recovery up in the mountains and the mop up and the cleanup, the Forest Service has been great to work with. They call me a couple of times a week. They're working across the 21 road with their equipment, which, we have that contract, the 17 miles in between that we're responsible for, but they're actually bringing their equipment through and helping us out. So I just wanted to give them that they've been a good partner in cleaning up. That's it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate your report. Next item will be our correspondence. Valerie, do you have anything there to put in the packet?
No.
Commissioners reports, yeah, I'm sorry.
So last week, we did attend the legislative roadshow that dealt with transportation in Hermiston. Had several legislators there, the head of ODOT and sort of a couple of the transportation commissioners were in attendance. And they asked about, what priorities were, and of course, pretty much unanimously around the table from the elected officials and stuff was the 50, 30, 20, but
Don't touch it.
don't touch it. And
Did they hear it?
I think so.
Okay, good.
And also in attendance, sitting in the audience was Gina Nickel, AOC, and another person from AOC. And then they asked about, options for funding going forward. Is there anything, you would consider, anything that's off the table? And there's talk around the different options. Pay by the mile, increase gas tax, other options to be rejected. And that was about it, there's quite a few people in attendance, so they gave go around the table 3 times. They had questions that they were asking to respond to.
So did they emphasize the fact that rural America is gonna pay that biggest part of that bill when it comes to the pay by mile, because there's not as many people and we're driving, 100 miles to go get groceries.
Those points are.
Because, you live in Portland and you didn't have public transportation, yeah, so that really puts a burden on the rural residents. And why should we be paying for downtown Portland streets with that? So,
I encourage them that, if they look at, with the legislators' push to go to EVs, state push to go to EVs, that suggested that they really need to consider a surcharge on public charging stations. That's the only way that you're going to capture any out-of-state vehicles and collect something from them for the impact that they're putting on our system. Because you can do it as a fuel tax, just the same as a gas tax.
Yeah.
So if you come in out of state, you fuel up. Apparently got fuel tax. That was surcharge at public charging stations. You don't publicly. Fuel tax. And then tomorrow is the NEAC meeting, so. Better go for it.
Well, thank you for getting that head on.
So that's it for me.
Let's see.
Yeah, I was gonna try and go to that, but I ended up at the steering committee for the water. And I had a meeting before that, so I had to zoom in. I wasn't able to get to hers for it, but they had a pretty good presentation. I think they're whether you see them out there or not, they're out there, they're doing their part. GSI is out there doing their checking the houses and wells and all that stuff. Moving forward, so we'll see a lot more of that, I think, after summer's over. And then we're still, there was so the Laguama at the state level is meeting with EPA. And I think we're gonna find out what the plan is for Laguama forward from the state side here shortly. So by the end of summer, they said we would have a plan. So I don't know where that's going.
Let's see, I've got a few meetings coming up, I'll just tell you some of them, so. Take my PA, you name a company, name it some people. Anyway, that's a renewable company of some type. The reason I say some type is I can think they've said before, I kind of was doing a little background, part of the yards. But all they're talking about is battery.
That is story.
So it's kind of hard to tell what they're, although they do mention a little bit about solar. It's just battery storage. What are they gonna do here? Anyway. That's up, guys. So chapter 13. Beat Northwest asked me to come out and speak to them. We're still working on a date for that. They didn't say what the topic is gonna be, so we'll see. Through organic. Fertilizing, but it's tomorrow. Groundbreaking. We want to I'm glad.
I have an appointment and Tracy.
Okay. Our IGA for our consortium, the legal department drew up an IGA, looks pretty good. We're gonna have a meeting on that. Looks like maybe Monday now, I don't know what your schedule is, and Justin said Monday. We're thinking Monday 10:30, but I have a patient. I'll have to get on a time on Monday if we do a thing. So we're gonna meet with that. And then after we get that, then we plan on meeting with Lisa before it gets been hammered out. It's final out for you guys to take a look at. Pretty soon. From the Krebs standpoint, got a notice from Lamb Washington there. They had a big project they were gonna do. They pulled out pretty suddenly.
Oh, okay.
Also, they did a line expansion,
The line extension.
or is something different.
They were doing a total rehaul of the processing plant. That's why they're going to Krebs. It was a huge.
Because, we approved the one form that was going to do a line expansion. It's gonna reconfigure and add
For
some.
Krebs?
Yeah.
That's who Krebs?
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
So that one they're about to do now.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so I gotta send out that letter. I got a letter from them.
And was that for an extension of the Res 2 that they had?
It was.
No.
It wasn't Res 3, it was a new, wasn't for an
Yeah.
extension, okay.
It was an application for a new.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty big.
They did do one for an
It's like
extension.
$55 million or
It was more than just. I thought it was over 2 million.
you're probably right. Could have been 255.
Yeah, I think it was something. Big, it was a big one. So. President, we got down. It was quite an announcement. They didn't give us specifics. sending out that letter to everybody on the public press release on the girls.
I did have one more, so I'm talked with some of the cattle ranchers and we're getting ready to have we ever heard Valerie win the?
I
wolf
will
depredation?
call him again after the meeting.
Okay, so APHIS is who does takes care of the ranch riders and the hazing, and they're probably gonna put together a presentation and probably do a multi-county presentation where they're gonna try to get a drone. Because they brought a drone up here recently and did some product showing for hazing of the wolves, and it's very effective. And it's also very expensive. And they're looking at maybe if the counties can try to get funding to help in purchasing like one maybe they could use in a 4-county zone. But so anyway, I'm just letting you know they are going to do a presentation. They will bring a presentation to the next wolf depredation meeting, and then from there we'll see, and they might bring it to the board. Depending on what the committee of the wolf depredation decides, it may end up coming to something. So
The funding has already been decided, right?
that's just for
Oh,
yeah, it wouldn't cover the hazing part of it, the drone hazing. It's more for the for depredation.
oh,
Right, so they have to have loss in order to get that, and the hazing part of it is the state's through APHIS, right?
Oh, okay.
That's through the state.
You have to, you can get a loss before you have a rain plan.
No, that's done by APHIS though. And
Right.
yeah, so the funding that we get from the state for wolf depredation is strictly for confirmed kills by wolves only.
I thought we actually could turn in range drivers.
It's on a different application. That goes
Oh,
through
right,
APHIS,
right.
that goes through APHIS.
Okay. All right, any other reports? All right, we'll move on, and next we have an executive session. So we'll be going into executive session. The Morrow County Board of Commissioners will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-6602I, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, when we return to open session, both of the office back in the beginning. And there is a potential decision or action item as a result of the executive session. So for the public, we will be opening back up into public session with a possible decision. That I'll call the executive. Okay, we're coming out of executive session into open meeting, and our county council will make a statement.
Yeah, my understanding, there is no action to be taken by the Board of Commissioners based on executive session. So, don't expect any, decision at this time, or the debate decision later on. During the executive session, the other role that I play as a couple district attorney, I was able to review and also determine that there is a second basis for the executive session that I would also state, which is under the statute under ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub F, so consider information or records that are exempt from the law or public inspection. That references general, anything that might separately be in the law that it's exempt from inspection. Under statute the 192.345 sub 3, that is also an exception for investigation regarding criminal purposes for investigation of criminal cases. The idea being that a lot of times if there's potential for, if someone's a defendant, victim or something else, and there's still a criminal investigation going on, that there are records that could be exempt or information. And so just by looking at this, some information got brought up, I was like, well, yeah, I would normally, someone asked a public record or something, I would deny that based upon potential criminal investigation ongoing. And so that's where, just add that on that as a basis, I would give also for the executive session. Both as role review for county council, also as role for district attorney who's in charge of the criminal prosecutions in the county. And so that's, I want to put that on the record as an additional basis for that.
Okay. All right, is there any further business to come before the commission today? Call the meeting adjourned.